Hi, this is Rick Harsh. This is my booktube. And right now I'm replying instantaneously to a question about Infinite Jest and why I have trouble reading it. I'm not sure exactly what I said in the video, but the problem that I have reading it is that it takes me back to familiar territory that I'm already, I guess what I mean to say is that I'm already thoroughly disgusted with it. And the person who asked said that he had friends or acquaintances, or, he knows people who've had problems with that book. And I can't check, to be sure exactly how he worded it, because I'm only going with my phone here. But the problem I have with Infinite Jest is I have no interest in repeating experiences that I've gone through. And now I remember that the book opens in an office with a tennis player, and I don't know that I really know at that point the full context of that scene, but I remember so many times being in an office, and I'll say one thing: being middle class, which is more or less what I was, has had its effect on me. And offices are themselves, and with mild authoritarian figures and deeply absurd situations that arise that lead to you being in an office with a mild authoritarian figure, often led me to become explosive. And so that's one thing. Do I need to give an example? Probably. I'll give you one example. I dropped out of university in my 5th year, but I paid for the semester I was in. And then I came down with a case of strep throat, and I needed antibiotics. And it was during that same semester. So I went to the health center of the university I was going to, and they would not see me because I had dropped out. And I said, yeah, but I paid. I paid for my health care and everything else. And I ended up in a particular office with a bureaucrat, and he said, if I let you, Rick Harsh, go to a doctor on under these circumstances, then I have to let everybody do it. And that was one of those things that my brain processed really rapidly and found to be wanting, and I exploded. There was a container of pens and pencils on his desk, and I remember I just slapped them into him. I slapped the container into him and said a bunch of things about what a fucking idiot he was. And it was all so quick that I doubt that he was able to process it, and he had no idea why that particular thing led to my explosion. Well, how did he light that fuse? By using a cliche to deny me my logically fair request. I was sick. I was really sick. I had a temperature. I had a horrifically painful throat. It was strep throat, and I needed antibiotics. And the thing is, it was towards the end of the semester, and if he would have allowed me to do that, probably I was the only person that semester who requested such a thing. So already he's full of shit. But if he allowed me to do it, I was not going to go on radio and tell people what he allowed me to do, and there would not have been a blind rush to get medical services from the university the next day. So, it's doubly absurd. And I processed that so quickly, and I just blew up. I blew up. The other thing that Infinite Jest forces me to read is about addiction and the middle class circumstances of the people who become addicted. Now, that's just something that is part of the frayed fabric of what my experience in suburban Chicago and later on Wisconsin, not suburban, but middle class, led me to experience in ways that nauseated me. And now, there's nothing wrong with the book in this aspect. And I need to overcome my nausea with this in order to concentrate on the prose. I've read, actually, a couple people trying to get me to read it have sent me passages in the book, and I don't know where they are, in the book, but further on, the 200s maybe, that were fucking hilarious. And so I know that if I press forward in the book, I will be rewarded by extraordinary prose, and it'll be hilarious, and I'll be glad I did. But so much of what has gone wrong in my own life has been rooted in middle class ethics and, more important, middle class ambience that I just have a hard time reading it. I've always had a hard time with Saul Bellow, with John Updike. I don't want to read about these middle class problems, when I could be reading about something more extreme in Latin America, or and that's where much of my early and formative reading came from. Formative? I don't know if it was formative, but maybe Edgar Allan Poe was formative, and maybe Kafka was formative, but these, or Beckett, these things make sense to me as exiled humans already exiled. So this is what I'm talking about. I don't know what other people would have. I mean, for one thing, not many people have problems with, as far as I know, with that book. Not many people that I've ever read have had bad experiences with that book. I imagine there are people who find it way too familiar in terms of addiction. I haven't even gotten there yet. That's a leap, and it's probably one that when I make it, I'll find it nerve-wracking and familiar. But that's the best answer I can give. I like to give an answer quick, and you know, when I've done interviews, I like even if it's an email interview, I do it on the spot. If I get the questions, I answer them right away. I don't want to think about them. I remember a couple of people being interviewed by someone I knew, and they were getting, you know, the interview questions, and they did I cut my? No, there's hair there. It's just a different color. See, it's there. Am I escaping the answer? Probably. But there were a couple of people who were taking an extraordinary long time answering their interview questions, and I was thinking, like, what the fuck are you carving out your posthumous your posthumous pose? You know, just answer the fucking questions. You don't have to be a genius. Even if you're a genius, you don't have to be a genius for every interview question. And anyway, that's a separate sort of thing. And how does it relate to this? I can't remember. I have dementia. Who doesn't? I mean, can you grow up in the United States without dementia? I think the healthiest people who grow up in the United States, in the middle class and so on, probably go through hell to get beyond and on the other side of what they go through. I know I did, but I don't think it was either an original path, nor was it a standard path. But I think that if you're born and raised in the United States, if you want to become sane and escape to the point where you can read Beckett and Kafka, I don't know, Poe? I don't know. That's for young people. It makes young people older. And there's some beautiful writing. Fall of the House of Usher, unforgettable. Anyway, the point is that it's a middle class issue. A child of the middle class who early on was bruised and buffeted by it might find